Run through a quick instruction video as opposed to a correction one today, just to make sure that we're clear on what's happening before we go on to try some of the questions here in the last piece of work that I give you before your break. So the thing that we're looking at in this video is angles. Okay, so nice and simple and stuff that you would have done at primary school, so I have a feeling that you'll be quite good at this. What I want to recognize, or what I want to run through first, is the names and how we do these things. So generally what we'll have is that we'll have a shape like that, we'll have our angle, and we may have points at the three main parts. Okay, so usually we've talked about points, and this is from your textbook essentially, but we'll look at it again. We've got A, B and C are 3 points. We would call B, or the point B, the vertex. Okay, so the point which is the kind of center of the angle is the vertex, and if we've got more than one of those, the plural is vertices. Okay, so we have that. We also have our arms of the angle. Generally, that's what they're called, those two. Okay, and as I've mentioned, we've got our three points, and you guys have looked at the idea of points in the last video as well. So we know that we measure an angle, and generally we talk about the idea of rotation. So when we spin something around, it's rotating. So if we spin it through a specific angle, so let's say that this might be an angle of 60 degrees, for example. Let's write that again, 60 degrees, okay, something like that. So it's all based around a circle, if we're talking about rotation. And we know that a full circle would have 360 degrees of rotation. So one full spin from its start point back to its original position would be 360 degrees. A half turn would be 180, so that's half of 360. And then finally our quarter turn, generally we talk about, is 90 degrees, which you guys will know as a right angle also, hopefully. Okay, so that's the basics of it all. And then generally when we're talking about angles, we've got lots and lots of names for these. Now I've mentioned a couple there already, so we'll start off on the next slide. Null is 0 degrees, so no rotation whatsoever. An acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. So greater than 0, greater than 0 degrees, but less than 90 degrees. Okay, generally it'll look something like that. Alright. Then we move up to our right angle, which is exactly 90 degrees. Okay, cannot be any other measurement. And we write them in a few different ways. Sometimes we draw it with a little square, sometimes we draw it with another little L in there, but generally that's what we write down, and it's always 90 degrees. Okay, our next one then is an obtuse angle, and I'm sure that you've discussed all of these, or you've used all of these before. Now we're talking about an obtuse angle is greater than 90 degrees but less than 180. So anywhere between those two values, and you'll see it, it's usually past the right angle mark. It'll look something like that. Okay, straight angle then is our next one, which is exactly 180, and it's called a straight angle because it's a straight line. You can imagine you got your 180 in there. Okay, and you'd notice that 2 right angles would make 1 straight angle. Okay, our reflex angle then is greater than 180 but less than 360. Sorry, not equals. Greater than 180, but less than 360. And that's going to look something like that, generally. Our angle is the shaded part there. And then we talk about full angle. Is exactly 360 degrees. So that's our full rotation or a full circle, as you guys know. Alright. Now, from there, we also call an ordinary angle, essentially. Okay. Ordinary angles are ones between 0 and 180, generally. So, as I said, greater than 0, but less than 180. Sorry, greater than 0, but less than 180, not less. Less than 180 degrees. So you would recognize that an ordinary angle is either an acute angle or a right angle or an obtuse angle. So those group of three there are what we would class as our ordinary angles. Last thing then to mention on this is the idea of supplementary angles. Nice and straightforward. With a supplementary angle, all we do is that we have two angles working together to give us 180. Okay, so if you think about it in a straight line, and we might split that there, and you'd end up with something. Maybe that's 40 degrees, and maybe that's then 140. And you guys know that 140 plus the red 40 would come together to give us 180 degrees. We would call those two, call that one and that one, we would say that they are supplementary. If they add together to give us 180 degrees. So that's all there is to it on that. Now, very last thing, what we want to do is to show how we name these. Now, you guys have looked at the length of a line. Is written like that. A line segment could be written like that. So when we're writing an angle, we have to use that shape. So if we go back to what I drew at the very start here today, and I had 3 points, 1, 2, 3. Let's call that A, B, C. B is the vertex, if you remember. A and C are points on the arms of the angle. So when we're naming an angle, generally we have to use this shape. We use the angle shape. Looks a little like a less than sign, but we kind of think of it like an L with the top bent over slightly. And we just name the 3 points. Now the middle one has to be the vertex. So I could name this angle ABC, or I could also name it CBA, because B is in the middle and B is the vertex. I could also just name it the angle B, because it's the angle at the point B. Okay, so 3 different ways, but as I said, usually they're named like that and they're named like that. And if I knew what this was, let's say that that's 55 degrees, I could then write that the length of the angle ABC is equal to 55 degrees. Because you remember we used these 2 lines earlier on to talk about the length of a line. We can do the exact same thing for the length of an angle. Okay, and you can see those 2 little lines there. They just represent the length. So that's all there is to it. So using that, you should be able to answer the problems that I give you today and use that as the last piece of work before the break. Thank you very much.